who is admitting all of the people? I thought that was going to be Eddie, but he sees.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Martha, they're coming in the room now. You can see the participants coming in. Martha, take it from here.
Great. Thanks for coming, everybody. We'll just leave a couple of seconds here to get everyone in the room. LT, can we go to the next slide, please? While everybody is coming in, it would be really nice if we could see everyone who's here. So take a second and please put your name and affiliation in the chat. And just to reassure everyone, a lot of information today, but all slides will be made available to you at the end of the webinar. And if you have questions as we go along, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen rather than putting questions in the chat. If you put the questions in the Q&A, we'll try to keep track as we go. At the end of the presentation, I will be raising questions to Laura, and we'll answer as many as we possibly can. Lots of people coming in. The meeting is being recorded, so just be aware of that. You will also get a link to the recording. I'm just going to give it about 20 more seconds as I see the names continuing to pop in. My name is Martha Dempson, by the way. I am the Paymaster Program Specialist here at Californians for the Arts, and we're very excited to get going with you all. Okay, let's get underway. LT, can we change slides, please? It's my great privilege today to introduce my good friend Beatrice Casagran, Vice President of Theater Producers of Southern California, who is co-hosting this webinar with us. Beatrice?
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm trying to turn my, there we go. Hi, everybody. How are you? Next slide, please. I've been given the task of introducing the Theater Producers of Southern California, of whose board I am vice president and have been involved with for several years now. TIPSCA, as we say in short, is a trade organization that represents nonprofit theater producers working in Southern California. In our history, we started as an LA area organization and have branched out because we have found the very strong need and benefit of having a regional organization speaking on the behalf of theater producers in the theater live theater ecosystem. We're entrusted with representing theaters, producers, and union negotiations, facilitating talks, helping to set production standards, upholding high standards and branding, and advocating, of course, for theater as we have in the last several years, which have resulted in some of the legislation and programs that we're going to discuss today. So we're glad to be here. And now, next slide, please. I would like to introduce Julie Baker, who is CEO for Californians for the Arts and for California Arts Advocate. Julie.
Hey, thanks so much, Beatrice, and thanks, Martha, and thanks to everyone who's here today. We're excited to be launching CALPAYART, the California Nonprofit Performing Arts Paymaster. It's been a long time coming, and we'll get through some of that in a second. Next slide, please. Just quickly, if you're not familiar with our two organizations, we have a nonprofit, Californians for the Arts. We really work to build public awareness of the value of the arts, culture, and creative industries and the workforce, and build tools for you to become informed, educated, and effective in your own arts advocacy and civic engagement efforts. On the other side, we have a C4, a direct lobbying organization where we employ a lobbyist in Sacramento. And we really work to influence policies at the state level, and lobby for support for arts, culture, and the creative industries and workforce. Next slide. So we are a membership-based organization. If you've seen the benefit directly from either one of our organizations, we encourage you to join us. Particularly if you're an organization, we encourage you to join California Arts Advocates so we can continue to employ a lobbyist and really directly try to influence legislation, policies, and funding for arts and culture and the creative industries and the workforce in the state of California. Next slide. My pleasure to introduce our partner here in developing CalPayArt, John Reedy, who is CEO of Austin Creative Alliance. Hi, John.
Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for this introduction. I am so excited to be here, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Next slide, please. So we are a nonprofit, almost 50 years old, as the next slide will show. Our mission is to advance community-driven cultural work, connect resources to the cultural, arts, music, and preservation sector, and advocate for the growth of sustainable cultural investment. This mission is what brings us here today. We are an entire team of lifetime arts professionals. Everybody who works at Austin Creative Alliance has been involved in the arts as multiple roles of presenter, performer, producer, and now arts administrators and service folk. Our values are service, inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility, integrity, and accountability. We take these values very seriously. All of us are passionate about serving cultural workers and the organizations that employ them. Next slide. So just a little history. Like I said, we were founded nearly 50 years ago as a theater-specific group in Austin, Texas. Over time, and in response to a city cultural master plan, the organization was renamed from Austin Circle of Theaters to Austin Creative Alliance, and we adopted a mission and a new development strategy that was inclusive of all artistic disciplines. And today we serve performing arts, we serve visual arts, we serve folks in the film community, we serve literary arts, and we serve dance. I mean, you name it. If a cultural worker needs support, we are there for them. And then over time, especially our theater companies obviously started to express a need for paymaster services. So a little over, I think, a decade ago, we got started as a paymaster specifically for AEA, contract administration. Again, over time, it grew organically as others expressed other needs. And so we are now serving as producer of record and employer of record for a variety of organizations across the country. We also do fiscal sponsorship for over 100 emerging arts groups. And yeah, we are in 24 states currently and serve over 400 individuals and 160 organizations. Thank you so much. Next slide.
Great. So before we really dig into everything about the paymaster, I want to take a moment to clarify the distinctions between two separate pieces of legislation that started together, because there's often confusion coming up between the two of them. On the one hand, in February of 2021, we introduced legislation authored by Senator Susan Rubio, SB 805, and it called for two things. One was the creation of an equitable payroll fund, which is a program to provide matching grants for payroll to small performing arts organizations. And the companion piece was this performing arts paymaster, a nonprofit performing arts paymaster to provide paymaster services to help with the burden of administering large payrolls. So during that year, the bill was amended a number of times, but by the end of the year, we ended up pulling out the equitable payroll piece and simply leaving the paymaster. So back in 2021, at the end of the legislative session, we were just looking at the paymaster. Next slide.
And earlier, because we have two sort of ways that the legislature works, one is the budget process, one is the legislative bill process. There was a budget that passed in July, And in that, it included $49.5 million for grants to small performing arts organizations, which was the nonprofit performing arts grants program through California Office of Small Business Advocate that was administered by Lendistry. And many of you know Terry Ball on our team, who helped you with technical assistance for those grants. Hopefully many of you received those grants. In addition, there was $500,000 to set up the nonprofit performing arts paymaster. And as this says, this was the compromise funding package supported by labor, such as Actors Equity, and also working with California Arts Advocates, our lobbying organization, and of course, TIPSCA and many others. Mostly a real amazing grassroots coalition of folks who really pushed all of these issues forward in the legislature. Then after that, the SB 805 with the equitable payroll fund is removed. It's passed by both the Assembly and the Senate, but the governor ends up vetoing that bill because in his signing message, he essentially says it's redundant because the Paymaster program was enacted in AB 164. Next slide.
So then we came back in 2022, we reintroduced the equitable payroll legislation with a new champion, Senator Portantino. And it was changed a little bit so that rather than having matching grants up front, it runs on a reimbursement scheme. This legislation was co-sponsored with Actors Equity, so it was a management labor partnership. And then in August, the Senate and Assembly passed it, and in September, the governor signed it, but there was no funding for it yet. So that was sort of the sum of our year in very brief in 2022. Next slide.
So Senator Portantino in the beginning of in 2023, he, and again, I can't underscore how much we had this incredible champion and Senator Portantino, and the year before that, and Senator Susan Rubio, who really were advancing these issues inside the legislature. He did a lot to make sure that there was funding now attached because it was upon appropriation. And the funding request doesn't make it into the May revise, but in the last budget trailer bill of the year, this year, we saw $11.5 million to implement the equitable payroll fund. So we're telling you all of this because a lot of questions have come up where people are asking, oh, can I get access to this money? Because you read all of our newsletters, we appreciate that, and you're learning about all of this sort of stuff, but it's separate from the California Nonprofit Performing Arts Paymaster. Next slide.
So just to repeat what Julie said,
Right.
While these two programs started as one bill, they are now two entirely separate programs. So today's webinar is going to focus on the first piece, the one that was budgeted 2 years ago, the California Nonprofit Performing Arts Paymaster. Next slide.
And then just finally, the history of how we got to today. So the California Arts Council created an RFP for the $500,000 to create this nonprofit performing arts paymaster. They issued an RFP in July of 2022. We responded to that RFP and submitted an application in partnership with Austin Creative Alliance. We really sought to find a partner that had shared our values and who had worked as a paymaster prior or is currently, and also had that level of expertise. And we interviewed a number of different for-profit, nonprofit existing paymasters, and we were so thrilled when we could make the partnership happen with Austin Creative Alliance. And then in October of 2022, we were notified we were awarded the grant. But as some of you have worked sometimes with the state, things don't go as quickly as we had hoped. It took until June of 2023 for the state paperwork to be finalized. And that's when we started the program development for the California Nonprofit Paymaster Program. And we've named it CALPAYART, trademark pending. So who I want to introduce now is the person who many of you will get a chance to get to know when hopefully you sign up to become a part of CALPAYART, which is Laura Wahlberg, and she is the Director of Finance for Austin Creative Alliance. Laura, take it away.
Next slide, please. Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Wahlberg. I've been the Director of Finance with Austin Creative Alliance and working as a paymaster since 2019. Just a little bit about me. I came into this job because I am a union member. And as a union member, it was important to me to help try and bridge the gap between my union and the producers that I was trying to work for. And that's what I walked into the door with, and here we are today. And I'm really excited to be able to share a lot of this with you. There's a lot of information that we're going to be covering, but remember, as Martha told you, all of these slides are going to be at your disposal after this webinar is over. So we're going to try and meet our time today, and I'm going to try and move through these slides as quickly and efficiently as I can. So, a lot of you on this call may be wondering, what is a paymaster and why might you need one? Well, small performing arts organizations don't always have the capacity or the ability, the knowledge base to start bringing employee or contractors, possibly former contractors, on as employees. Working with a paymaster can help quickly bridge that gap. Or if you've been working on trying to manage this on yourself, working with a paymaster can help smooth that transition. I know that these laws were passed within the last few years, and many of you are in different stages of evolution with regards to coming up into compliance with these laws. Working with a paymaster can help smooth that transition no matter where you are in the process. Working as the CalPayArt paymaster, I want to make sure that you understand at the front, and I'll repeat this a few times today, is that we work to facilitate the administration of your organization, your payroll needs as they are defined by you. We do not come to you with a preset template of payroll responsibilities, guidelines, policies, whatever. We step in to work with your organization as an extension of your organization to try and meet your needs wherever they are, whatever they are at that time. And we work with you to continue to evolve that relationship and help you grow or downsize as you need to. It is 100% customizable from person to person. Next slide, please. Hey, we meet you where you are. That's fundamentally the way we approach all of this business. As I literally just said a moment ago, this is the core driver of how we conduct paymaster business. We work with you. We will help advise you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you are still the employer. The CalPayArt paymaster will simply be acting as the employer of record on your behalf. Before we move to the next slide, I just also would like to make sure that it's very clear that we can handle all kinds of employees: permanent, temporary, union, non-union, full-time, part-time, you name it. We have you covered. Also, program participants are not required to put all of their payroll needs through the program. If you're in a place where you already have things going pretty smoothly, but say your productions are a nightmare, we are here to help, and we can meet you wherever you are. Next slide, please. One of the things that I have found most intriguing in this work is trying to help my customers understand the difference between a payroll company, which is a tool, and a paymaster, which is actually a service. And this graphic here kind of highlights some of the main differences between the two. Whereas a payroll is a tool that you employ to do a task. A paymaster service is you partnering with someone who will use a similar tool to execute that task. Using a payroll company, your in-house personnel need to ramp themselves up on the tool. They need to understand those capabilities, and they need to be spending the time and effort on your side to take care of all of that. Whereas if you work with a paymaster service, we are the people that have to understand how to use the tool. We are the people to help guide you with making key decisions with regards to your employees. We are the person that is responsible for the execution and administration pre and post payroll. And we'll get into a little bit more about that later. Next slide, please. When I've been working with Martha these last several months, we noticed that trying to get our heads around a different way of doing business, which is really can be one way to look at how working with a paymaster really is. It is a different way of doing business. So we thought we would put together this Venn diagram. Your organization is on one side, your paymaster is on the other side, and you'll see that your employees are in that lovely little warm space in the middle. This is what I mean by we work with you. We partner with you. We step into your organization and act as an extension of your existing administration, no matter what that is. You, as the client employer, establish and negotiate all of your contracts. You get to choose who you hire and who you don't hire. You manage your own workplace and conduct your on-site trainings. You select your employee-funded pension programs. You still maintain the autonomy that you deserve as an employer. In working with the paymaster, we administer the payroll specifications of the contracts that you've created. We do the work of onboarding all of your employees for you. We issue your wages, pay the taxes, and file all of the appropriate reports. We ensure that all of the proper deductions are applied and fulfilled across the board to your employees, no matter what those are. The one thing that's on this Venn chart that is represented on the paymaster side that is not represented on your side is this bottom item, providing worker protections and administers those claims. In this, we're talking about workman's comp and unemployment. Two really big, whomping things that can make the whole payroll cycle seem like a complete nightmare. Working as the employer of record, your employees are covered under our workman's comp policy. Under this program, we are employing a capped unemployment fee that you would be paying to us in order to be able to facilitate the administration of any claims that might come down the road. Next slide, please. Now we're going to go into some of the real nuts and bolts of a paymaster's responsibilities so that you can get a little bit more hands-on knowledge about what to expect in working with a paymaster. Next slide, please. The first thing that I want to talk about is information access, which in this day and age is something that everybody's talking about like crazy. How do we protect our information? How do we make sure that my company's information and my employees' information is secure and safe? Well, in working with the CalPayArt Paymaster, employers are provided the option to access a secure online portal to facilitate document exchange, view paid invoices. It's not a requirement to use this tool. This tool is a bespoke portal that we've had programmed to work with the existing Austin Creative Alliance business tools for you. You'll learn a lot more about that when you call us and you talk to your dedicated paymaster paymaster associate. But I wanted to make sure that I touched on that here, that you as the employer would have a secure place to exchange sensitive information. On the flip side, your employees, they're automatic in the onboarding process, they are automatically granted a never-ending 24/7 access to their payroll portal where they can view their pay stubs, access end-of-year filing documents, view any required HR documentation that you might deem as necessary. And they are also hands-on, securely, and directly maintaining their own personal information. So say John Smith, actor in the show that you're working on, is getting married in the middle of the run, and he wants to make sure that his information is up to date. Well, guess what? He can do that himself in the portal. This also covers any of your temporary employees. We're talking about people that might come in and out of your organization to do a single engagement, or they might come in and out periodically throughout the year. They have the same access as your standard normal long-time employees. However, when their engagement is ended, we simply turn them off. There is no onboarding fees that you need to worry about to get them in or get them out. All of that is covered in our fee, and we'll get to talking more about that later. Next slide, please. Administration. Here's where I really want to introduce you the fact that working with the CalPayArt Paymaster, you will have a dedicated single person, your Paymaster associate. That person, he or she, we have a small team of people to work with you. They will work with you and act as the extension of your existing administration, as I mentioned before. It's not just during your setup. It is an ongoing relationship. It's as if they are an extension of your hand, and they are here to make sure that you are taken care of, no matter how your organization evolves over time. To talk about the nuts and bolts of how your people are administered. Salaried employee payroll is run on whatever pay cycle or cycles that you determine. This is one really key place where you do not have to shoehorn your employees into some sort of a template. You are able to hire your people in whatever way you deem necessary. Salaried employees that are long-term, you don't have to go ahead and approve their time every time a pay cycle goes on. Working with a paymaster, we take over that responsibility for you. On the flip side, you've got your hourly workers. Hourly workers are approved by you electronically. When the time comes near the end of each pay cycle, you or the manager designated in your organization will be sent an email prompting you that it is time to come into the system and approve those hours so that we can execute your payroll. You have 100% authority to approve or deny whatever those hours are. And we will not run payroll until your approval has been received. Your hourly workers are able to enter their time in multiple different ways in our system. We have fundamental time logs where they just enter, say, well, I worked 4 hours this day. We also have actual clock in and clock out facility. We also have facility to be able to geo-track your employees if necessary. It really is here to customize whatever you do. They do that through the app. Those hours come from their entries and get pulled into our system, and that is what you are approving when your manager receives that email prompt. The one thing I do want to make sure to mention on here is that any of these hourly employees, their work can be defined by predetermined hourly limits. It is entirely up to you as to how you want to set that up. And this last statement in here regarding exemption requirements. Even if you do set a limit on the number of hours, if that particular employee is not necessarily exempt, that limit cannot preclude overtime hours earned. So I just want to make sure that that is out there so that there is no confusion. Really quick, move on to the next slide. Thank you. As I mentioned before, we take care of issuing all of the labor around issuing wages. We manage all of the W-4 tax deductions, any wage garnishments, no matter what they are, union dues as applicable, pension plans, health plans, whatever is needed by your organization, we do. And final wages are direct deposited as defined by the employee into one or more bank accounts. It is entirely up to the employee to determine where their earned wages go. They can stick it all into one account. They can split it up into as many accounts as they like. They are in 100% control of that, and you are no longer responsible for the administration for those kinds of customizations. Next slide, please. We're coming to payroll taxes and reporting. This can be a real nightmare of something to learn, and I speak from personal experience long ago when I first started working on payroll. Your paymaster works on your behalf with your employees. We calculate the federal, state, and local employer taxes as needed, and we take care of remitting all of those payments and the required documentation to all of the appropriate agencies. At the end of the year, we file the W-2s for your employees. They receive a single W-2 from us. Now, one of the things that I did want to bring up on this particular issue is that, say, John Smith, actor, is moving from organization to organization doing shows throughout the year. Well, guess what? If those organizations are all members of CalPayArt, that John Smith, actor, will receive a single W-2 at the end of the year. That's one of the unique things about the CalPayArt program that is really, really important to understand, and not to mention very attractive to an actor, because it really cuts down on their legwork trying to race down all of those W-2s at the end of the year. Next slide, please. With regards to workers' protections and claims, on the heels of what I had mentioned earlier, you as the client employer, your employees are covered under our workman's comp policy, as well as our unemployment insurance connections with the state. As the employer of record, the paymaster administers all workman's comp on unemployment claims. Additionally, in this program, it should be very importantly noted that both of these are assessed on a pay-as-you-go basis as a percentage of gross wages. Now, some of you may already be carrying workman's compensation policies. Some of you may already be registered with the state with unemployment insurance. We'll talk a little bit more about that kind of situation a little further on in this presentation. Next slide, please. Union agreements. Some of these union agreements can get real specific and real hairy. Well, guess what? We've been working with unions for the last 20 years. Myself being a member, I am intimately familiar with many of the union agreements that our industry uses. And you know, I have found in my history with Austin Creative Alliance and working as paymaster that if we haven't, because of our experience, we ramp up real quick. When it comes to the execution of your union agreements, it is your responsibility as the employer to negotiate those agreements with the unions. Your paymaster executes all payroll-related requirements that those agreements carry. These bullet points indicate some of the themes that typically show up in those agreements. We calculate dues, pension and health, any additional artist fees, reimbursements, musicians' cartage fees. Your dedicated paymaster associate will work with you 100% to make sure that we have a full, comprehensive understanding of whatever union agreements you may or may not currently be working with. And with our expertise, we found that with education being one of our tenets of how we do all of our work, we're here to help you, especially in the event that you are an organization that may not yet be using union agreements, but would like to. The note at the bottom refers to the producer of record services. I want to make sure to point it out to you so that it's not missed. But I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it on this call because I really do want to get to a Q&A. And I know that there's a question that's burning on all of your brains right now with regard to cost. So let's move on to the next slide and see where we are in the cycle here. Oh my goodness, how much does this service cost? Let's move on to the next slide and just start talking about it. In registering with CalPayArt, there is a one-time lifetime registration fee of $100 to establish your organization in our paymaster systems. California for the Arts is granting this fee to the first 250 participants in this program. When I say one-time lifetime registration fee, it truly means just that. Means if you come and sign up with the CalPayArt program today, and you are one of the first 250 people, you will be granted that $100 fee. Say you're coming on and you're only going to do the show that you're working on right now. And once that show is over, you're like, okay, I need to catch my breath. I need to do this, that, or the other thing. And you don't come back to me for a year. Well, guess what? A year could go by. 5 years, 10 years could go by. And you will never have to be onboarded into the organization again, into the program again, because you've paid that one-time lifetime registration fee way back when you did that one show. When it comes to the invoicing of your payroll, when we issue invoices, these are the things that you are going to see on every invoice. You're going to see a line item that shares information on gross wages. The next line will be the line that covers employer taxes summary, federal, state, and local as required. The next line will show you how much you are being charged for workman's compensation, which, as it says on this slide, we charge 5% of gross wages for workman's comp. Percent of gross wages will be charged for unemployment insurance. Right now, our cap is 6.1%. If your organization currently has a SUI number for the state of California, upon presentation of that letter from the state, if it is 6.1% or lower, we will meet, this program will meet that existing SUI rate. On the flip side, if your organization happens to be carrying an SUI rate that is higher than 6.1%, well, guess what? Signing on with the CalPayArt program ensures that you will be paying no more than 6.1% of gross wages. Employer contributions to employer or employee-funded health and/or pension plans will be following that line right there. And then at the very bottom, you will see the CalPayArt fee. That is the fee that you are paying the program to execute this work for you. The CalPayArt program is ensured that you will be paying no more than 5% of gross wages for that fee. In addition to that, there is a nominal hard cost payroll processing fee of $5 per active employee per payroll period. Many of the different paymasters and payroll organizations that are available to all of us have varying costs on that hard cost item. We like to refer to it as the stamp that you put on the letter when you send a card to your mom for her birthday. Next slide, please. This slide really talks about not how do you pay your invoices, but how do you calculate? How do you how do you know how much we need to pay you? Well, CalPayArt is built to work to meet each organization where you are. When we provide our paymaster services, we tend to keep them readily identifiable in two different buckets. The first one would be production-based paymaster services. These services would be the payroll that you need to run for those specific engagements. Has a finite starting time, has a finite end time. Paymasters traditionally collect the anticipated payroll to be able to cover that engagement before that engagement starts, so that within that we are able to pay and execute all of the tax payments and payroll needs and out of that bucket. You pay once, we take it from there. Now, we understand that this can be a hardship on various kinds of organizations. Please, please, please remember, I cannot stress this enough. We are here to meet you where you are. So if an upfront payment just isn't feasible, we will work with you to provide a pathway to make sure that these costs are covered. That also applies to our long-term staffing paymaster services. These are the artistic director, these are your managing director, your box office assistants that are working long-term. They're not necessarily tied to a specific production. They're the people that are in your house that make everything run from day to day. CalPayArt program requires an initial bond in order to initiate this level of payroll service, and it gets billed monthly. When I say billed monthly, it fundamentally means every month we look at what payroll has been run and you get charged for that. Next slide, please. Don't have much more to say. This slide really is an illustration to kind of remind you of some key things. The CalPayArt program doesn't require that you run all of your payroll through the Paymaster program. This program was created to help you in whatever way you need. As I mentioned a long time ago when I started talking today, these laws were passed a few years ago, and everybody is in a different place with regards to how they have or have not managed to come up into compliance. This program is here to help. I have to be honest with you. A paymaster relationship is not necessarily the right solution for everyone. But please call us. Please call us, because we can help you make that determination, and we will. We will get down into the nitty-gritty and talk about comparing costs, and we'll take it to the end of the line to help make sure that you are making the most educated decision possible. The one last thing that I do want to make mention before we open up to questions is within this program, and this is contrary to working with a lot of different paymasters and especially payroll companies, working in this program, you're not going to be nickel and dimed with extra charges. No matter what you need to do, that 5% is that 5%. These bullet lines items down here: employee onboarding costs, time and attendance service costs, stop payment, check reissue fees, payroll run fees, annual tax documentation preparation and filings, producer of record services, minors processing and facilitation, late fees. None of that exists in this program. So that's the last thing that I really wanted to make sure that you left with and really understood. We worked really hard with Californians for the Arts to create a program that was going to speak to the needs of the people in your state, in this industry, to help them move forward. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Martha, and if anybody has any questions, please do ask. Martha?
Laura, I'm going to read some of the questions that have come up because I think they might apply to many.
Sure.
This question comes from Suzanne LaRoque. As employer of record, what does that mean to the employee from a payroll tax reporting perspective? Are they pointing to CalPayArt as the employer?
Technically, Austin Creative Alliance is the paymaster engine for the CalPayArt program. So, and please apologize. I apologize if I misunderstand the question. But what that means to an employee is that when you hire John Smith Actor for your show, we, Austin Creative Alliance, are technically hiring them as our employees on your behalf. So at the end of the year, when they receive their W-2, they're receiving their W-2 from Austin Creative Alliance.
And Laura, if John Smith Actor is injured on the production or files an unemployment claim afterwards, where do those claims go?
Those claims come to me at Austin Creative Alliance. If John Smith Actor calls you and says, I'm filing for unemployment, I need your sole responsibility as our client producers or client employers is to direct them to me.
Great. Okay, here's a question from Herna Cruz Louis, and pardon me if I mispronounced your name. Is there both a mobile app and a web version to the work hours tracking?
There is. On the employee side, employees do have access to the clock either via computer or their phone. The phone app does have slightly limited capabilities, however, and this is set up that way to ensure that their personal and private information is unable to be hacked. So, and on the employer side, the employer my apologies, I just want to make sure I'm saying this correctly. I'm being a little bit distracted by my poor little pooch. On the employer side, yes, it is accessible to approve hours on your computer. I do not believe, however, that approval of hours is necessarily available via the phone app, but it is able to be done on your phone via your phone's web browser.
Great. Are you able to administer international workers?
We are, as long as they are able to provide appropriate documentation that they are authorized to work within the United States.
Terry, have you seen any other questions that you think are that should be raised for the group? I see a lot more questions are coming in. Has there been any conversation about making providing a health insurance plan to CalPayArt clients?
We currently do not offer health plans to our clients, our employer clients. That is not something that we are currently set up to do. My CEO and I, John Rady, and I have discussed this to be a potential long-term goal for us. But with regards to establishing the program and making sure that we can roll it out as quickly as possible to the people that need it, we didn't want to hold up the development of the program in establishing something like that. But it is something that is on our radar for long-term access.
Laura, I'm seeing a question around mix of independent contractors and employees. Do you take care of both, file 1099s, et cetera?
Absolutely.
Right. And then I'm also seeing some folks talking about they may have existing sort of, payroll services, or they have QuickBooks payroll, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What happens there?
We will work with your organization to manage any kind of a transition required. Say if you're working with QuickBooks Payroll and you're decided that you would really benefit from a paymaster relationship, your dedicated paymaster associate will work with you to craft the transition plan from one platform to working with us, establishing the timelines, when the official cutover date would be, all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. I was going to say, Susan Bier asks, what is the processing time? Do you mail payroll checks? Does the frequency of payroll periods affect your fees?
Okay, give me the first question first, because I'm not seeing this in front of me.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
What is the processing time on payroll, I assume? Do you mail payroll checks? Does the frequency of payroll periods affect your fees?
In answer to the third question, no. Second question was, can you please remind me?
Do you mail payroll checks?
If the employee determines that they wish to have their checks mailed to them instead of direct deposited, that is 100% within their right, and we will do that. The caveat is we all understand what the U.S. Postal Service system can be, and their pay will be delayed the number of days that it takes for that check to get mailed to them. And the first question was?
What is the processing time?
I'm not quite sure I understand what the processing time question is.
I think they probably mean from approval of payroll to the issuing of wages.
Okay, I'll divide this into two parts. salaried individuals, whether it be a weekly salary, a semi-monthly salary, a monthly salary, whatever cycle you determine, those salaried players are paid with at the end of the whatever cycle term you determine. On the flip side, hourly employees, because they don't get paid for until they define their hours, they go through and enter their hours either daily or weekly, however we need to set you up your hourly people, whether it be on an actual punching the clock or just filling in a timesheet. They do that during the cycle. So let's say between October 16th and October 31st, they're working their hours. After that time period ends, that is when you or your manager, designated manager, approves or denies those hours. You have through that cycle to work with your people to make sure that if there are any changes that need to be made, or if there's any validations that you feel you need to make in order to be able to provide that final approval, that is entirely at your discretion. When the next pay cycle is run, that is when your hourly people will get paid. I'm hoping I've made sense. I tried to make that as clear as possible, but fundamentally, hourly workers, they work their hours and then they get paid for those hours in the next cycle.
Laura, there's a question regarding advance of anticipated payroll. Does the entire amount of projected payroll have to be paid up front, or can the advances be paid prior to each payroll cycle?
Are we talking about advances for the employees, or are we talking about the payment that is required in order to be able for us to initiate payroll for the employer?
Why don't you answer both?
Okay. With regards to the employee, there is a facility within our system to allow them to take an advance on their future earnings. Depending on how that employee is set up and what kind of future earnings are available to them once they've been onboarded for whatever they've been onboarded for, that does exist for them. On the flip side, with regards to the employer, as I mentioned earlier, we have our fundamental guidelines as to how we need to receive your funds in order to be able to execute your payroll. Productions, our guidelines require that we receive all of the funds up front so that we can pay out of that bucket for the term of the show and you don't have to think about it anymore. In that particular instance, as I mentioned earlier, if that is too untenable a thing to do, your payroll associate will work with you to find out exactly what you can do, and that will be how we run it. Similar concept goes for long-term salaried employees.
There are a couple of questions around this issue of the employer of record. And since Austin Creative is in Texas, does that mean people would have to file Texas taxes?
No, Texas does not require that, which is part of the reason why a lot of our clients have been coming back to us for years and years. It's very clean and it's very simple. No,
So-
your people are never going to be required to pay any taxes in Texas unless they're working in Texas.
Okay, so for the people, they would still report this income on their California state taxes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thinking of salaried staff, does the paymaster offer tools for PTO accruals, et cetera?
Yes.
And also
do.
sick time accrual is another one that's been asked about.
Yes, we do. We can do all of that.
We have another question. Am I understanding correctly that CalPayArt would also do the equity, health, pension, dues reports, make the deductions in payroll, and pay equity?
Yes. Across the board, yes.
In theory, would it be possible to engage CalPayArt to administer workers' comp and unemployment insurance only?
No, unfortunately, workman's comp, unemployment insurance is all directly tied to payroll.
Thank you. We have about 4 minutes left. I know that Martha had mentioned that we could go over for those folks. I also just want to indicate that a lot of the direct questions, the best thing you can do is to, if you're serious and think you want to be a part of this, is to fill out the enrollment, or the inquiry form. Martha, do you want to add that into the chat one more time?
I have put it in a few times. I just put it in again. It's you will see it. It's www.austincreativealliance.org/paymaster. And then what you want to do is scroll down and hit the the CalPayArt Paymaster button.
Mhm.
That gives you a brief intake form to complete, which just gives some background on your information to help the conversation go faster. And then you will speak directly with an associate who can, really try to answer all of these inquiries more specifically and personally for your organization.
And Julie, these folks, you don't need to be that serious about it. If you just want to know more information, say you're in a position where you just genuinely don't know, even after everything that we've talked about today, please come to our website. Please engage with us. We really want to be there to help you make an educated choice.
And if we don't get to everything, we're also capturing all the Q&A too. So that will also help us to determine as we build out our FAQs for everyone. So bear with us with that. And then also, of course, I think one of the best things you can do is to really fill out this inquiry form so you can get a chance to speak to Laura and her experts directly, and what you can get out of this service, what it costs, and figuring it all out. I will say this from Californians for the Arts perspective, from the state perspective, we really want this to be of service to you. This is why it's here. It's why we've worked really hard as a team to make sure that this is meeting the needs, is as affordable as possible, from the onboarding, waiving that fee, and so on. Somebody asked a question, is there going to be too many? And if I think about it too long, will I miss an opportunity? This isn't closing. This will be ongoing and open. This is a service that will continue. But really, the more people who sign up, the aggregate of everything adds up in terms of being able to provide better services. So really encourage folks to sign up, tell your friends about this service, so that we can ensure that really it's accessible for all the folks that need this in this large change that's happened in California in particular.
Well said, Julie. Thank you.
It is great. I have a question from Hannah Henderson. In theory, would it be possible to engage CalPayArt to administer workers' comp and unemployment insurance only?
Oh, we answered that already.
We answered that.
Oh, how did I miss it? Sorry.
That's okay. You're doing.
It was literally the last question we just answered.
There's lots of things. If you don't enroll today, what does that $100 go up to? It's not just today, Leilana. It is the first 250 organizations that sign up will waive the $100 fee. I believe that is the fee that is would be then if we get to 251, you'd have to pay $100 to sign up.
There are a number of questions about the actual payment and if it's possible for the employers to pay the money to you through ACH. Do you do direct payments like that, or does everything have to be sent with checks?
Oh no, we actually encourage ACH. And within our systems, we never actually carry or hold onto or store your banking information. When we invoice you for your to secure the funds for your engagements, it's all done electronically. You are more than welcome to send in checks if you want, but we strongly encourage ACH. Absolutely.
And for those who are asking about the SB 1116 kicking in and that sort of stuff, that budget appropriation just happened at the end of September. So really, we are actually meeting this Friday with the head of the Office of Small Business Advocate to start to see, the implementation steps, et cetera, and looking at how can these two talk to each other. So that is something within the sites for sure. But it's nothing that we can address quite yet. But the more you communicate with us, whether it's through Paymaster at californiansforthearts.org or directly with ACA under CalPayArt and your specific needs, because really once you fill out that form, they can create a relationship with you to understand exactly what you're dealing with and how to, as Laura said, meet you where you're at, right? In terms of overall issues that you're facing, as an organization, as a sector, in terms of thriving sustainability in the state of California, we want to hear from you, because we continue to build legislation. We continue to work with the legislature and the administration to address issues, to ensure that there is a thriving, creative, nonprofit performing arts sector here in the state of California. It is 3:01. Martha, do you guys want to do a handful more questions, or if you want to just take it from
Yeah,
here?
Laura, if you're okay, let's do a handful, but also for people who need to go, please feel free. We will send you a link to the recording as well as the slides. I know it's a lot of information to process all at once. Do be sure to take the links to contact either me or CalPayArt Associates directly if you want to take this to the next stage. Again, I'm sorry if this question has been asked, but how can we learn more about how the payroll can integrate with financial tracking of assigning part-time hours or shifts to accounting GLs and or classes?
So are you asking, do you think the question is about how does what we do filter into what accounting software is on the client employer's end?
Oh, possibly. Let me see if I can.
Yeah.
Why don't we try to answer that question and assume that that's the case? Yep.
Okay. If that is the case, I want to be frank, we do not have facility to be driving data into your systems. Part of the reason why we do not do that is because twofold. First of all, we want to make sure that any data that we are sharing with you is secure. And we do not necessarily currently have the facility to ensure that. On the flip side, in working as a paymaster, remember, we are taking on the responsibilities of employer of record. So when it comes to what we actually do on your behalf, in the most technical sense from a financial standpoint, those records belong within the construct and security of our organization. So when it comes to trying to ensure what information you as the client employer in this relationship would need, our paymaster associates, or at least very distinctly, I would be working with you to make sure that we're giving you what you need so that when you are being invoiced each month, you are able to very readily identify exactly where those things need to go within your accounting construct.
Laura, I'm going to ask you a somewhat related type question. Are the payments for artists created as a lump sum? Are they aggregated, or can we break it out for each type of artist and employee? So actors, directors, hourly employees, et cetera. And what I think we're getting at is what kind of reporting can you provide back for the client to help them understand their own payroll?
When we run payroll for your employees, they're classified by various types of roles, actors or performers, stage management, and other labor, designers, directors, dramaturgs. If there is something that within that kind of a classification that your organization needs that we currently do not have in our system, we'll work with you to make sure that we get it into our system. When it comes to how an employee is classified, we want to make sure that whenever they're getting onboarded into a job, that that classification is readily available. So when their payroll is run and we are able to run our reports on that, we can readily see that. And when it comes to sharing those reports with you, that's what you will be receiving. I hope I think I've answered the question. If I haven't, please let me know.
There's another question of, is it a problem if an individual has different pay rates for different work?
Nope. Our system is flexible enough and customizable enough to be able to handle those kinds of situations. We know our industry inside and out. I've been in it my entire life. There is not a single day that goes by that I know that I personally do not wear multiple hats. So our Paymaster associates will work with you to help make sure that your people are getting covered in whatever way they need to be classified, covered, and paid.
I think maybe we're going to try to wrap up, but I'll give you one more question here, Laura. Can you
Shoot.
talk about onboarding process or the onboarding process and how you can adapt to varying availability of project artists and sometimes lightning turnaround for onboarding in cases of emergency replacements or musician session player subs for musicals?
Okay. When it comes to the fundamental initial onboarding process for you, the client employer, as I've been referring to you, the onboarding process will take as long as it takes to make sure that you feel comfortable that we know exactly what you need to do and that we have set it up appropriately to make sure that we're executing your payroll properly. With regard to emergency situations, one of the things that we've always prided ourselves on is that because we are the organization that we are and because we have the background that we do, we have a tendency to be able to pivot pretty darn quickly. Our ability to be able to meet those emergent needs is really going to be dependent on making sure that you've got that established relationship with your Paymaster associate. And if for some reason you call in an emergency moment and your Paymaster associate isn't able to answer the phone, they're going to have their backup person there ready to be able to step up and help you in your time of need. We understand that things happen all the time, especially in this industry. With all of that said, we can also work with you to help try and ensure that you have a level of access into this payroll system to be able to do certain things. If you just want someone to be only be able to approve time cards, we can do that. If you want someone to be able to have certain rights and privileges that go beyond that in order to help facilitate some of these things, we can work with you to define exactly what those things are and grant that access so that you're not necessarily going to be reliant on calling your Paymaster associate. So, like I said, it all comes back to we meet you where you are, and we've gone to great lengths to make sure that the application of this service through this program is as customizable as conceivably possible to all participants.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up. I apologize to those of you whose questions we haven't gotten to. We'll keep them and try to get back to you. Thank you for joining us today. I do encourage everyone to follow up if this sounds like something that could fit your needs. We are really hoping that it can and that we can aggregate all of our small companies in order to secure the best insurance rates possible and just to, help stabilize the sector going forward. Julie, did you have anything else, or John, Laura?
Just thank everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for their time today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And again, if your questions were unanswered, please reach out to paymaster@californiansforthearts.org. You'll get Martha Dempson directly. And if you are ready to get work directly with ACA, specifically on CalPayArt, and get your your questions answered about your organization, go to the form now, sign up, and it's no commitment yet. We're just getting to know you, and then we'll go from there. Right, Laura? Are we ready to dance? We're ready to dance. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. And we look forward to working with you. Thanks.